Well, I'm in the process of transferring the old original irons off of this 11-passenger Stagecoach onto the new wood, and so going through getting all that fitted up. I did take and prime all these old irons. Remember, I had them fitted up last time. And when I have those off, I can take my sandpaper and do some of the finish sanding, take my file marks out. And I don't sand with anything finer than 80 grit. I actually want this wood to be somewhat rough, so when I put that primer on, it's got something to grab a hold of. The times that I've had the most problem with paint peeling is when I have sanded too smoothly. And also these braces in the corner, I haven't got them finished off all the way yet either. These actually have this corner here rounded off, so if I were to draw kind of a elliptical type shape there and something similar on the top, that's kind of the shape that this corner will be. So it's kind of rounded out this direction, and it has a bit of a round this way as well. I think you can see it on this old original seat. See, this is the line here, and then it has a breaking line here. So it is concave this way, and it rolls a little bit this way. Mainly this direction though. So before I get all these irons mounted on here more permanently, I'm going to shape this. That is also one of the signatures of an Abbott Downing Yellowstone Park stagecoach. About like so. And on these seat corners of these old original ones, you can see there is a plug right here. There is a plug right there, and a plug there. Then on the side, we have a plug right here, plug there, and a plug there. So we have 3 screws down both the arm and the seat back into this corner frame. So I'd like this screw to go into the meat of that corner frame. So I'm going to come in a 1/2 inch that direction, and I can also come in about a 1/2 inch that way. So I'm going to be 1.25 inches in and 1.25 inches in from the outside edges. short the 3/4 inch screws that go into this seat arm iron. This is only 5/8 thick, so these 1-inch screws are a bit too long. I've got them coming. They should be here in a week, I think. So I'll set this aside and work on the next one. Well, this driver's seat needs this iron to kind of trap the driver into place, but it'll have to go on after this seat is fastened because this front part actually goes to this cross frame here. When I get that in the right position, I have to kind of cut a little groove or notch here for this upright iron to set into. So I'm going to wait on that until I actually get this a little more permanently attached. So these irons off the second seat, they suffered a little more abuse than the driver's seat did. We have a little bit of a bend here I need to straighten out. And where the flat comes from the base to the arm on both sides is actually pretty good shape. But this portion of the seat arm rail that comes up to the backrest is twisted on both of them. So I'm actually going to try to get these positioned to the wood and then maybe make a back, and when that backrest is in place, then I'll be able to reshape these irons and get them to come in where they need to. The one on the right side, you can see it's pretty well bent up, but again, I can do this fitting anytime here now. most of you are pretty astute, and your attention to detail is always kind of marveling to me. Did you notice how these irons were different on this seat than they were on that driver's seat? Kind of curious who picked up on that. So if you remember, on these side arm irons here, there's two heavy screws here. I think these are number 12s. I put in 1 inch, and then there's a screw here and a single bolt. And this is only 3/16. And on this back iron to the seat rest, there's a bolt in the bottom. But these just have 3 screws, and remember, they were filled with a filler and just sanded smooth. Well, I don't know how many of you picked up on the fact that these are different. These actually just have 2 bolts instead of the 3 screws. So when these are installed, there's going to be nuts sticking out here. You might kind of wonder, why is it different on these passenger seats? Did they just not care as much and made those passengers lean up against these nuts here? And then on these arm irons, on the driver's seat, there were just 2 heavy screws. This has 3. I'm guessing these are probably number 10, so they're a little bit lighter screw. And when there was a single bolt here and a screw down here, this actually has 2 bolts. So this is going to have 2 sets of nuts kind of antagonizing those passengers. And 3 screws down here. So I was just kind of curious how many of you picked up on that. You have any explanations of why that might be? Well, this is kind of the disadvantage of this being a one-sided conversation. You don't get to do the feedback. I suppose if I did this live chat thing, which probably is never going to happen, we could have this interaction. But the reason why this is, when this backrest is on and that upholstery is on, it not only upholsters the backrest itself, but there is a long fall that is upholstered and comes down over this whole back, and then the seat cushion sets in and covers everything up. So these can stand to have bolts in them, which are actually stronger than just screws, but they get covered up. On the driver's seat, this backrest is all that gets upholstered. None of this between the two get upholstered. So those have screws and are filled just for the comfort of the driver. And it was kind of like that outgoing picture that I put on the end of my videos. I usually put in there, thanks for sharing and subscribing. And I do appreciate you sharing it, because when you share it with your friends, it gets put out there and more people find about this crazy guy in Montana who builds wagons. But I misspelled thanks, and I flubbed up the and it was just my goof up on editing when I was proofing everything before I uploaded it. So it is what it is, but I do appreciate you sharing it with your friends and subscribing. You know, subscribing is not the ultimate pinnacle of the measure of a channel. It is those who watch and watch continually, like many of you do, and I do appreciate that. So I'm going to bolt these on. They have 3/16 bolts in them, except through the frame. Those have 1/4 inch bolts. And go ahead and put this on. I think I'm going to do the next seat as well. And then these backs have to have a curve to them. And once I get that pattern, I think I'm just going to probably do them all at once. So this is where I'm going to stop for now. I'm not going to trim these bolts off. In the process of putting that back on, I may have to take these off. These irons are messed up for the arms, and I'm going to have to take those off and get them fitted to that board as well, that backrest. So I'm not going to trim them yet. Well, one left for this 11 passenger. That'll still get original set of irons. Then when I do the 8 passenger, that's where I'm going to have to make duplicate irons. Anyway, we're making progress. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.